We've talked a bit about the media analysis of the immediate aftermath of the airstrikes of yesterday and what's likely to happen between the US and Iran. But I want to turn now to the Democratic contenders. Staking out a position on this seems pretty important because by the time we have a general election, we might well be in a war with Iran. And look, I'm biased, I know, but I want to give credit to Bernie Sanders for, at least right now, the best, most unambiguous statement about what is going on right now and what it represents. And we're gonna show you a few. But I want to read the initial tweet that he put out. He said, "When I voted against the war in Iraq in 2002, I feared it would lead to greater destabilization of the region. That fear unfortunately turned out to be true. The US has lost approximately 4,500 brave troops, tens of thousands have been wounded, and we've spent trillions. Trump's dangerous escalation brings us closer to another disastrous war in the Middle East that could cost countless lives and trillions more dollars. Trump promised to end endless wars, but this action puts us on the path to another one." And we were talking about that earlier, all the glowing praise from media figures about him wanting to end those endless wars, and now thousands more soldiers are going to Iraq.
A little message to everyone running for president, if not now, but in the future. We will reward the people who are against war. Like the main determining factor between Barack Obama and everyone else on that stage, both of whom were either have lost bids for presidency in their tenure, Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. The less bellicose person has won. The less perceived to be war-ready person won, including Trump over Hillary Clinton, because it was perceived, as he said it over and over again, you gotta get out of these wars are stupid, get out of them, get out of them. And people had this perception of Hillary Clinton, in many senses rightly founded, especially in relation to Trump, that she was the hawk. And America, that turned a lot of people off. And so now I'm thankful that in a way, not for what happened, but at least the clarity it should give everyone that Trump is indeed a warmonger and a hawk. And he went after someone who, he did all this, right? And so if you stand up to that, history shows you will be rewarded with the presidency in the future.
Yeah, and look, we have a number of different responses from candidates. So I'm gonna give you more from Bernie Sanders, but as a preview, so as you're seeing this, understand what we have seen, like none of the candidates that I've seen are like, let's get him, let's go to Iran. But all of them are like, well, I just want to say, like, obviously he was a terrible person.
He was.
It's good for the, yeah, that's fine, that's fine. And then like at the very end, it's like, I think Trump might have been a bit rash and we should be consulted on future actions. That is not an unambiguous statement against war. Making clear the lives that we lost, the money that we
make unambiguous statements against war.
What's that?
I don't think you should make unambiguous statements against the concept of war. I think
yes,
you should.
If aliens invade, we should fight back against the aliens. Yes, there are some wars that hypothetically we should be in favor of. The American people have not been presented with one of those for a very long time. Bernie Sanders was a young guy when anyway. So here's a little bit more from Bernie Sanders. By the way, some history. Because this is not just like he's popping up and taking a look at how people think about this right now. Back in June of last year, he wrote an op-ed, "We must stop the US from going to war with Iran." That was back when Trump was on the brink the last time. And by the way, he got criticized for an appearance he made on the media in response to those strikes. Here's a bit of that, this is 6 months ago.
Was President Trump's decision this week to call off that strike the right one?
See, it's like somebody setting a fire to a basket full of paper and then putting it out. He helped create the crisis and then he stopped the attacks. The idea that we're looking at a president of the United States who, number one, thinks that a war with Iran is something that might be good for this country.
He was just doing a limited strike.
Oh, just a limited strike. Oh, well, I'm sorry. I just didn't know that it's okay to simply attack another country with bombs, just a limited strike. That's an act of warfare.
Yeah, that should be the most obvious thing, but like we're not exceptional in the way that some right wingers want you to think that America is exceptional. But one of the exceptional things about us is we can do anything we want and still be the bigger, better person.
I mean, in the meantime, what Trump has done, I don't really know the exact timeline, but in the meantime, in order to get around this argument against Trump that he is attacking just a general from a foreign country, he decided to label, and Israel too, decided to label the Quds Force as a terrorist organization. How convenient. Now I have some kind of insulation, but like just look at the setup of Iran's government. And you'll see that is just like a general in the army who handles things overseas or abroad. That's his job. The head general that handles things abroad.
Yeah, and in response is now doing another surge in Iraq. We are. Okay. Okay, we have a lot that we have to go to, so let's be brief. You can say something, we have to be brief.
He funds militias to forward he funded militias to forward Iranian interests abroad, and that's what we do.
Yeah, and yes, I understand. It's this stupid thing where it's like if you don't do 10 paragraphs of, well, of course he was a bad guy, you're perceived as un-American. There's a lot of bad guys. The same justification that can be used to kill him. Why is Kim Jong-un still galloping across the plain on his white horse if we're just totally justified in taking out every bad guy? Why didn't we nuke him yesterday?
Nuclear weapons.
What's that?
Nuclear weapons.
That's a good
lack
point
of
too.
Oil.
Yes, well,
but I will say that you don't have to have 5 paragraphs as your argument, and then you're going to read a bunch of tweets.
I'm not going to read all of it, by the way. I'm just going to give you an idea. One other person who I think had a pretty good statement was Andrew Yang, who tweeted, "War with Iran is the last thing we need. It is not the will of the American people. We should be acting to de-escalate tensions and protect our people in the region." I've had my issues with him recently on Medicare for All, but that is a good, relatively unambiguous statement. Now, as an example of what we were talking about, though, you have Elizabeth Warren, who says Soleimani was a murderer responsible for the deaths of thousands, including hundreds of Americans. But this reckless move escalates the situation with Iran and increases the likelihood of more deaths and new Middle East conflict. Our priority must be to avoid another costly war. Yeah, that's fine, I guess. And you had, I'm not even gonna read Buttigieg's because it was very long and I couldn't find the raw text, but it was another thing where it was like 4 paragraphs to get to the point of, he really should have talked with Congress and it seems a little bit reckless. This is the incumbent president that you want to challenge launching totally unilaterally with no consultation that we know of with Congress or our allies, launching potentially a war on the scale of Iraq. And you're like, he was a bit brazen.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying at this point?
Yeah, hashtag peak Buttigieg.
Exactly.
Everything he does is like that.
So I hope that the other candidates, Klobuchar's got a little tweet, and Biden, it's all very similar to the Buttigieg stuff and the Warren stuff. And it's not the worst compared to the Republicans. It sure looks good, but it also doesn't seem like someone who is going to do everything necessary to make sure this war doesn't happen. Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.